10. He was created to cure a disease. Most people might look at Shadow and think he was just made to be an evil Sonic, but that isn't the case. He was actually created by Robotnik to find a cure to his granddaughter Maria's illness, neuroimmune deficiency syndrome. He was actually created before Sonic was even born. Sadly, the ultimate life form didn't get a chance to fulfill his purpose and help his friend. Why? Well, number 9. His first friend was murdered. Spoilers! As previously alluded to, Shadow was very good friends with Maria Robotnik, with the two becoming quite close. Unfortunately, when the military attacked Ark with the intention of capturing Shadow, Maria helped him escape and was killed in the process. This scene scarred countless young people, and they keep showing it. It was in 2 games and a show. Stop making us feel, dang it! Number 8. He actually has character development. And look, Sonic's great, and I won't deny that there's some development of characters, at least in the comics, but as far as the games go, there isn't a whole lot of change. It's pretty much the good guys are good and the bad guys are bad and everybody's all fast and stuff. Shadow, on the other hand, has some pretty great development, going from bad to good to a bit bad to a bit good. I love an anti-hero, and Shadow has a pretty interesting history. Number 7. Solar Sonic. Let's get the 3 out of the way right now. They're kinda dull, so it's annoying to put them above Super and Hypersonic, but I felt I should start with the more basic transformations to give a groundwork. Solar Sonic was one of the supplemental transformations found in the Archie comics while Sonic was in Ultra form. With the extra power, he was able to change his form to better fit his environment, and he turned to Solar Sonic while going through the Great Desert to beat the heat. His fur and outfit turned brown as well, in case you couldn't tell from the pictures. Number 6. Fans gave him his guns. One thing that a lot of Sonic fans love about Shadow is that he uses guns. This guy will do what it takes to get the job done. And as it turns out, fans had something to do with his weaponry in the first place. Around the time Shadow got his game, fans were writing letter after letter asking Sega to give Sonic a gun. Sega felt this wasn't in character for Sonic to have a gun, but you know who would have one? Broody McAngryface. So Shadow can thank the fans for his lethal companions. Number 5. He stepped on a whole bunch of toes in the comics. Silver wasn't so popular with Sonic and Pals when he was first introduced in the Archie comics. In this story, he learned that his future was destroyed by a traitor inside the Freedom Fighters, so he went back to figure it out. But after accusing 3 different people and being wrong, they started to get tired of the guy who just came to point fingers and pick fights. Thankfully, he eventually learned that, spoilers, you ready? Sally was the traitor, but hadn't done it intentionally, so all was well. Number 4. He swears. I mean, look, it's still a kid's game, so he doesn't really swear. He isn't dropping the F-bomb all over the place, but his words were pretty risque to little Ron. Nowadays, with GTA and whatnot bringing every word under the sun to kids, Shadow's use of damn and hell are super tame. But you can bet your hiney that there were a bunch of sheltered little kids who thought he was so cool for this. Some kids weren't allowed to play games with swear words. I may have been one of them.
Up next, number 3, her name. We mentioned earlier that Rouge initially was intended to be Nails the Bat, but her name was changed. So why did Rouge stick? Well, there's a lot of debate over that. First off, some believe that it comes from her being introduced as a love interest for Knuckles, who is red, hence calling her Rouge, which is the French word for red if you didn't know. Another popular theory is that the word Rouge has some historical connotations to certain kinds of behavior, most of which Rouge herself exhibits, that behavior being less than wholesome, i.e. flirting, dancing, drinking, although she doesn't really do the latter. Other fans have connected her name to the city of Baton Rouge in Louisiana, which is home to a large population of bats. Get it? She's a bat.
Number 2. He isn't that fast of a runner. A lot of people see Shadow and Sonic zooming around and assume they're equally fast runners. Nope. Shadow actually gains his speed from his hover shoes, which allow him to more or less match Sonic's speed. Someone really should patent those shoes. Number 1. He kills the president. Sometimes. For those that haven't played it, the Shadow the Hedgehog game includes a number of moral choices to make. One particularly unfortunate choice came when Shadow was tasked with either killing the President of the United Nations or helping the good guys. Not exactly your everyday Sonic decision. What made this worse though was that earlier that year there had been an assassination attempt on President George W. Bush. Timing was not the best. Oops. Number 10. Supersonic. Yeah, we gotta start off with the transformation that started it all, Supersonic. Supersonic has been around since Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and it has been a staple ever since. By using all 7 Chaos Emeralds, Sonic turns into Supersonic, turning bright gold with red eyes. The powers vary a little bit from game to game, but it generally involves a boost to strength and speed, flying, 9 invulnerability, and most importantly, access to Chaos powers. This lets him use abilities like Arrow of Light, Blue Tornado, and of course, Chaos Control. Number 9. Hypersonic. Hypersonic is like a souped up version of Supersonic, achieved by collecting all 7 Super Emeralds. In case you didn't know, Super Emeralds are Chaos Emeralds that were enhanced by the Master Emerald. Emerald. Just felt I didn't say it enough there. Anyway, Hypersonic is wicked. It makes Sonic crazy fast, crazy strong, almost totally invulnerable, and most incredibly, lets him breathe underwater. Wow. Plus, it gives him access to his signature move, Hyper Flash, which destroys all the enemies on the screen, which, is kinda useful. Number 8. Ultrasonic. Ultrasonic was kind of the Archie comic version of Hypersonic, which was achieved with the help of a Super Emerald and a whole whack of power rings. This gave Sonic a bunch of strength and speed and lets him control the bond of atoms, manipulating the atomic structure of any object. Sonic first used this form to fight Ugly Naugus, and later when he had to race across Mobius in issue 71. This second occurrence gave rise to our next 3 transformations, speaking of which, number 7. He wears inhibitor rings. Shadow is known as the ultimate life form, able to manipulate chaos energy at will. Unfortunately, he can't go around with this power at all times, or he'd keep accidentally blasting holes in things. So he uses inhibitor rings on his wrists to keep the chaos force in check. But if things start to look bad, he can take them off and just let loose, draining his energy in the process. It's pretty wicked. Number 6. Polar Sonic. Polar Sonic appeared on the same epic run while Sonic was running through colder areas of Mobius. His quills turn white because snow is white, let's not overthink this. In this form, he actually has skates, allowing him to quickly traverse the icy landscape of the southern tundra.
And at number 5, her furry fandom. It should be no surprise to you that the Sonic franchise has a pretty extensive furry fandom. If you don't know what a furry is, maybe go give that a Google right now. Make sure your safe search is on. Trust me. Got it? Okay, good. All things physically considered, it makes sense why Rouge has a big following in that fandom, with her often being portrayed as a fleeting seductress who uses her raw sexual appeal with great liberty. The community has also a few running jokes about Rouge, joking that her breasts are filled with gas, which is why she's able to fly with such large ones that they themselves often inflate in fan art, and that her adoration of jewelry is actually a sexual euphemism.
Number 4. Dark Sonic. Dark Sonic appeared in Sonic X as the result of the fake Chaos Emeralds interacting with Sonic's anger at seeing Cosmo trapped and Chris unconscious. His transformation powers him up, making him much stronger and faster, able to rip robots apart before they even know what's happening. After he transforms, his quills lengthen, his coloring darkens to the point where his fur becomes black and his skin becomes dark gray, while his pupils disappear completely. He also has a dark blue aura surrounding him. Needless to say, it's pretty terrifying. If I were Cosmo, I would have been more scared of Dark Sonic than anything else. Number 3. He was mentored by a relative of Knuckles. Silver's education didn't stop with Mammoth Mogul. Another important teacher of his was Edmund, a distant relative of Knuckles from the future. Edmund taught Silver about chaos energy and trained him to be cunning in battle. He didn't approve of Silver's relationship with Mammoth Mogul, calling him a sad sack of lies. Savage. But fairly accurate. Number 2. Excalibur Sonic. Yep, if you guys have been around for a while, you'll know that I straight up love swords. I like watching sword videos on YouTube, and I love alternate versions where characters use swords. And Excalibur Sonic is no exception. In Sonic and the Black Knight, the magic of the sacred swords turns Sonic into Excalibur Sonic, the ultimate knight. He gains strength, speed, and flight, can use Soul Surge and his own version of Quick Step, and can channel golden energy for crazy attacks. Plus, his golden armor is damn fine. But the best part? He wields frickin' Excalibur, of course. And the magic allows the sword to cut through anything, even deflect magical attacks. Nice. Number 1. Sonic Man. Don't worry, I'm not talking about the weird guy from Sonic 06. I'm talking about this Sonic found in the Sonic Mega Man crossover after he was roboticized by Eggman using future technology from Mega Man's world. Pretty wicked, both in looks and personality, gaining a cool robotic body, a Mega Buster on his right arm, and a W on his forehead to signify his connection to the evil Dr. Wily. Pa Mal do too. Number 10. He has psychokinesis. This is definitely pretty well known, but not everyone watching this video will be familiar with Silver, so I think it's important to get it out of the way. Silver is one of the most magic-focused Sonic characters, able to manipulate the environment around him with his mind, move things, throw things, and even compress many objects together to make a massive projectile using his Meteor Smash ability. Totally not the same as Spirit Bomb, not at all. He can use his psychokinesis as a limited form of telepathy, use it to fly, and can even teleport short distances by warping space. Most importantly, he can use Chaos Control to open time portals to travel through time. which he does a lot. Not too shabby. Number 9. His powers were based on the game. Sonic 06 was using a new physics engine, and developers used it to create stages with multiple ways to complete them. In an attempt to add more variety to the player, rather than just running quickly through every level, they introduced Silver with his psychokinetic powers. This let him move things around and get around the level a different way. A lot of people saw this as Sonic heresy, but personally I thought it was an interesting addition. Too bad there were so many other things wrong with the game. Number 8. He's a fly type. Some people who aren't super well read in Sonic may assume that everyone's just fast and stuff, but that's not true. There are actually 3 main ability types. Speed type like Sonic and Shadow, power type like Knuckles and Big, and fly type like Tails and, well, Silver. Fly type characters are represented by the color yellow in-game. This is less a shocking fact and more of a way to explain a certain mechanic to non-Sonic fans. In the words of Professor Quirrell, just thought you ought to know.
Up next, number 7, Sonic Forces mod. One of the many complaints fans have had with the most recent Sega developed Sonic game, Sonic Forces, was that you weren't able to play any of the beloved cast of supporting characters. This also includes Rouge, but luckily someone has made a mod for the game in which you can play as the character, and it's also available for some other awesome characters too.
Number 6. He's voiced by Daisuke Ono in the Japanese versions. Much of the flack Silver gets is for his voice acting in the Sonic 06 game. Not gonna lie, it was pretty subpar.
This world was devastated before I was born. A harsh, bleak place.
The voice itself was pretty good, but the lines sounded kind of forced at times. In the Japanese version, Silver was voiced by Daisuke Ono, best known as the voice of Sebastian Michaelis in Black Butler, and he just kills it.
俺が生まれた時からこの世界は終わっていた。果てしなく続く荒野。
I really dig his interpretation, and even though I don't understand Japanese, it still feels more natural to me than the English version with Pete Capella. To Capella's credit though, he does get better in future games. Number 5. People keep trying to ship him with Rouge. This one might be known to some Sonic fans, but others might find this strange. Shadow and Rouge get along quite well, since they're both pretty sassy and pessimistic. And for this reason, people keep trying to say that they're dating. Now, I can't speak for this one way or another, because they're fictional characters that I didn't create, but a lot of the proof is kinda sketchy. They'll be like, when Rouge saw Shadow, she smiled. And I'm like, yeah, they're friends. Rouge is just flirty with everyone. Well, what do you think? Are they platonic or lovers? Let me know in the comment section down below. Personally, I don't think Rouge could be tied down to one man. Hedgehog. Number 4. He was raised by Mammoth Mogul. Silver's story in the Archie comics is pretty interesting, and probably the craziest thing is that he was raised by a future version of Mammoth Mogul, one of the big baddies in the comics. Thankfully, Double M had already more or less hung up his villain cap, but his teachings weren't exactly as squeaky clean as others would have liked. Speaking of, number 3. Dark Spine Sonic. Dark Spine Sonic appeared in Sonic and the Secret Rings. When the world rings of rage, hatred, and sadness left Alph Layla with Layla, they merged with Sonic against his will, and he turned into Dark Spine Sonic. This version is influenced by the rings to act more aggressively due to the negative emotions, but powers him up a good deal as well. He gets the usual physical improvements of other transformations, as well as pyrokinesis, which lets him add fire to his normal attacks. I really dig it. Number 2. His top quills weren't based on the marijuana leaf. Some fans have theorized that Silver's quills were supposed to look like a marijuana leaf because they kinda do look like one. But the real inspiration was a lot more child-friendly. Turns out they were based on the Japanese red maple leaf, and as a Canadian, there will always be a place in my heart for any maple leaf, Canadian or not. Awesome. Number 1. He was almost a mink. Silver changed quite a bit during development, and one iteration that ultimately didn't pan out was that of Venice the mink. Venice was supposed to have orange fur and have futuristic headgear. I couldn't find an official picture, but the fan art makes it look pretty cool. Venice was eventually scrapped because developers didn't think the mink would fit in with the other characters. Personally, I think he's good as a hedgehog, but I think it'd be really cool to throw a new kind of animal into the Sonic world.
And number 10, Nails the Bat. Originally, Rouge was supposed to be named Nails the Bat. Her name was changed before her first appearance in 2001 Sonic Adventure 2 to better suit her personality. Since then, the character has appeared in 28 games in the franchise, with some of those appearances being playable and others simply just her making an appearance, like in Sonic Jump Fever. The character has also been used as a trophy, like in Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 3DS. Outside of the games, Rouge's first appearance in the Archie comics was in Sonic the Hedgehog number 98, which was a cross-promotion issue with the release of Sonic Adventure 2. And at number 9, Yuji Uekawa. Speaking of her creation, the individual responsible for Rouge is Yuji Uekawa. Yuji is one of the character designers at Sega, and a member of Sonic Team. He started his career at Sega working on Sonic R, and was responsible for the series' redesign that occurred in 1998 with Sonic Adventure. Aside from Rouge, he's also also responsible for creating another Sonic fan favorite, Knuckles the Echidna. Up next, number 8, her espionage career. Rouge is more than just a pretty face. The character is a jewel thief and a government spy working for the President of the United Federation. If those credits weren't enough, she also works as an agent on loan for the Guardian Units of Nations, also known as GUN, who are a worldwide military and law enforcement organization. In addition to her stacked resume, she's also a world-famous freelance treasure hunter, and definitely loves her some jewels, including the likes of the Master Emerald and Chaos Emeralds. Her career in espionage has given her a ton of training and experience when it comes to combat, stealth, and infiltration.
Number 7. Conflicting backstories for the game. It seems the writers couldn't quite get the story straight for Sonic 06. On the website it said he came from the future to the present but learned that the future could be destroyed, so he fights to save it. In the game guide it was implied that he started in the present, finds himself in the future, learns that the future might be destroyed and tries to change it. But then in the game he comes from a destroyed future and goes back to the past to change it. Yikes, I can't believe they'd make a mistake in that gem of a game.
And at number 6, voice actors. There are 2 voice actors who have lent their talents to Sega for Rouge. Rumio Kai of Japan has voiced Rouge in 15 titles, and Kathleen Delaney has voiced her in 8, including the likes of Sonic 06, Sonic Rivals, and Sonic Rivals 2. Rumi, on the other hand, is known for her work in the Naruto franchise, while Kathleen has voiced multiple characters in the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, including My Valentine.
Number 5. Eco Sonic. Alright, last one of the Ultra transformations. Eco Sonic was seen when Sonic was passing through the Great Rainforest. Sonic turns green, again because he was running through a green jungle, and he presumably gets upgrades that help him to run faster in the jungle. Don't really know what, it's hard to tell because there's just one panel and it's super vague.
And at number 4, her relationship with Knuckles. Knuckles and Rouge are usually depicted as rivals. The two have been fighting over the Master Emerald since Rouge's introduction into the Sonic universe, but often their relationship has been depicted as a romantic one. Sort of. It's like kinda subtle. By the end of Sonic Rivals 2, when they team up, she's calling him dashing and daring. Rouge's flirtations also carry over into her interactions with Knuckles in the comics, making his comic beau, Julie Sue, pretty jealous from time to time.
Number 3. He had one of the most controversial Sonic games ever. When you think of controversial Sonic games, you probably think of the turd of 2006, except that was pretty universally panned, so it's not super controversial. But Shadow the Hedgehog was quite controversial in its own right. This game was a huge departure from past games, adding weapons and vehicles, and while some appreciated the change of pace, others saw this as Sonic blasphemy. Personally, I think it's pretty cool. It's a spin-off game with a different character. A bit of change isn't so bad. But some people disagree, and they disagree hard.
Up next, number 2, her parents. Rouge is one of the only characters to ever talk about her parents in the franchise. In the game, she mentions her mother, who she refers to as Mama in the Nintendo DS game Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. Aside from familial relationships, those platonically closest to Rouge are Shadow the Hedgehog and E123 Omega, with Shadow being her best friend and Omega making for a close second. And finally, in our number 1 spot, Dominatrix outfit. For years, Rouge has been criticized as being too much of an overtly sexualized character in Sonic games. She's even gotten heat from parents of kids who play the games for having inappropriate mannerisms. Whether or not you agree, turns out you can actually make the character even sexier if you wanted to in Sonic Adventure 2. The game features multiple unlockable outfits for various characters, and one of Rouge's includes a Dominatrix-inspired outfit. It's unlocked after clearing all of Rouge's missions in the game. There's also a Christmas one and a Halloween-themed outfit, and even a risque 2-piece one available too.
Number 10. He was created by Eggman's grandfather. Someone in the comments of the last Shadow video pointed out that I was kind of unclear when describing Shadow's creation, and I didn't specify which Robotnik, and they were totally right. Thank you, SaiyanGamer95. So I'll clarify here that he was created not by Dr. Ivo Robotnik, the Eggman we all know, but his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. Hope that clears things up. Number 9. He's probably ambidextrous. Shadow tends to favor his left hand when using his various guns and such, which has led some fans to believe that he's left-handed. Certain pieces of artwork on game cases and stuff have him using his right hand, but he generally prefers to stick with good old lefty. However, in Black Knight he used his right hand to wield his sword. I know technically it wasn't Shadow, but it was Shadow. This was probably just to make the Wii Remote make more sense, but if we're taking it as canon, it looks like he might be ambidextrous, although possibly with a dominant left hand. Number 8. He sounds like a character from Supernatural, especially when voiced by Kirk Thornton. Shadow's voice is generally pretty cool, one of the cooler ones in Sonic, but he gets pretty airy and raspy at times.
No matter how many times you try, you can't win.
When I hear him, I can't help thinking of Supernatural, where everyone talks like this. The edge is real. Is it stretching the definition of a fact? Yes it is.
Up next, number 7 is romances. While there aren't any explicit romances in the Sonic franchise minus Sonic and Amy, Knuckles is no stranger to a little bit of loving in the Archie comics. He's with Julie Sue, another Echidna, who is his soulmate. The two share a soul touch connection, but in the games Julie Sue never makes an appearance. But fret not, because fans still heavily ship Knuckles with another Sonic favorite, Rouge the Bat, who tends to have a very Batman-Catwoman dynamic with Knuckles, and in Sonic Adventure 2 there's quite the flirtation between them.
Number 6. He has a rivalry with Luigi. With both Shadow and Luigi constantly living in, well, the shadow of Sonic and Mario, you'd think they would be best friends. They understand each other's struggle. Problem is, with Mario and Sonic duking it out for the top 2 spots, Shadow and Luigi are kinda stuck fighting for 3rd place. Let's be real, this rivalry was really only created to match up with Mario and Sonic's, but it's an interesting little tidbit.
Up next, number 5 is Knuckles. Knuckles may not be as powerful as some of the other Sonic heroes, specifically 2 that we'll be talking about coming up later on, but in terms of sheer superhuman strength, he's got most of them beat. Knuckles' strength has been equated to that of Sonic's speed. He can lift approximately 100 to 500 metric tons. He's the only one who has knocked the Chaos Emeralds out of Sonic while he was in his super form, aside from Eggman that is. And Knuckles is a well-trained fighter, with dynamic moves like Major Eruption in Sonic battles, and his deep impact punch that is so powerful that it causes friction with the air, resulting in an explosion.
Number 4. He doesn't age. Shadow was a result of an experiment, an artificial creation designed to help cure disease. As an artificial being, he was made to not age, meaning he could potentially live forever if he doesn't get shot or fall off a cliff or, plunge down to Earth from space. Spoilers.
Up next, number 3, Sonic Depression. Sonic Depression is a creepypasta about a player who finds a cartridge of Sonic the Hedgehog. Except when he plays the game, the logo isn't the Sonic logo we all recognize. It's a different one that reads Sonic Depression. Confused, he just starts the game anyway. Rather than the first title card reading Green Hill Zone Act 1, the text has been replaced with the word Life. The level plays like normal though, but by the time he gets to Act 2, the title card is different again, and reads Confusion. This act was altered. There were only a handful of enemies and obstacles. Sonic's sprite had a sad expression on its face as he navigated the level, so the player shuts it off and then goes to school. When he returns home, he brings a friend to show him the game, but the game is now frozen. His friend goes home and the game unfreezes. That's when a text box pops up on his screen and reads, "Only one may see this." The next level is titled Depression and is void of enemies. The whole stage is flat. The player moves Sonic forward and discovers a tombstone with Sonic's name on it. Now before he knows it, a pair of spikes shoot up and hit Sonic. Another title card appears that reads Realization. Sonic reappears on his screen, but this time the ground beneath him is crumbling, and the screen is soon engulfed in black. The player tries to move Sonic around, speeding away from the abyss, but it's just too fast for him, and consumes Sonic entirely.
Number 2. Awesome Chaos abilities. Lots of characters in Sonic have taken advantage of the Chaos Emeralds at some point, but Shadow takes it to a new level. First, he has a wide array of abilities he can use, including Chaos Control, Chaos Spear, Chaos Blast, Chaos Lance, Chaos Rift, and Chaos Punishment. Not only that, at times in the games, he's used Chaos powers without even having a stone, leading some to believe that his connection to Maria allows him to do things he normally shouldn't be able to do. Either that or the whole Ultimate Lifeform thing. A fun fact, in the comics he definitely doesn't need them. The games are a bit less clear though. Number 1. He's part Black Arm. Here's something that a surprising number of people missed about Shadow. We all know that he's a genetically engineered hedgehog, but Gerald Robotnik also used DNA from the Black Arms to create him. He took blood from Black Doom to create his Ultimate Lifeform, hence the black and red coloring on Shadow. This means he isn't just a hedgehog, he's a hedgehog / Black Arms hybrid. Only problem is Shadow the hedgehog / Black Arm doesn't really have the same ring to it.
And number 10 is Knuckles the antagonist. When Knuckles first appeared in the series in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, he was an antagonist of Sonic's. When Dr. Robotnik tricked Knuckles into thinking that Sonic and Tails were intent on stealing the Master Emerald. While Sonic and Knuckles are friends now, they still manage to maintain a rivalry. Knuckles may not be able to attain the speeds of Sonic, but his strength is supposed to be on the same impressive level as Sonic's speed, making the two worthy adversaries. He wouldn't become a playable character until Sonic the Hedgehog 3's follow-up game Sonic & Knuckles, which was pretty much released at the exact same time anyway. Up next, number 9 is grapes. In the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 manual, it states that Knuckles' favorite food are grapes. This has been referenced in a few games too. Fans have gotten attached to the idea that Knuckles adores grapes though. There's a whole lot of fan art floating around the internet depicting his adoration of the purple fruit. Up next, number 8 is the And Knuckles meme. Knuckles is part of a popular meme originating from the 1994 Genesis game Sonic & Knuckles. At that point, Sega had introduced a lock-on feature that allowed you to add cartridges onto existing games, which made it possible to play Knuckles in Sonic 3. This started up a meme called And Knuckles, due to the tacked-on nature of the game and character. The meme made rounds on the internet several times, most recently reappearing in 2010. Then Sonic Mania added it as an Easter egg by involving a mode that lets you play as Knuckles, with Knuckles as your sidekick, once you unlock the debug mode in the game.
Number 7. He and Sonic were voiced by the same guy in Sonic X. Even though Sonic and Shadow tend to have pretty darn different voices, Jason Griffith voiced both of them in Sonic X. It's pretty impressive, his two voices sound fairly different.
We do look alike.
It's uncanny.
So it's you that's been getting me in all this hot water lately!
It would have been really easy to end up with Shadow sounding like Sonic with a cold, but he managed to create a pretty distinct voice. Well done.
Up next, number 6 is his eye color. Knuckles is the only character in the Sonic franchise to have purple eyes. Although, they're not always that color. His eyes at other times have been blue. And in Sonic Battle, his eyes are both colors. Blue while fighting and purple in the cutscenes. Up next, number 5, the Devourer. The Devourer is a tale about one of the escaped servants of Dark Gaia who appeared after Gaia's defeat. The Devourer is said to be an entity that surrounds you in darkness, and after a long period of silence will strike you with unimaginable pain. But as this creepypasta depicts with several soldiers, when the Devourer tortures you, you become a monster yourself. While they're out on their tour, one soldier by the name of Richard begins howling in pain. He opens up his mouth wide, and those around him swear that they saw a flash of purple lightning strike him. That's when things get demonic. Richard begins to attack the soldiers and pins one down to the ground before ripping him apart, eating his flesh chunk by chunk. One by one, Richard devours the soldiers until he falls onto the ground, seemingly dead amongst the bodies of his victims. That was weird. Up next, number 4 is spelling restrictions. Oddly enough, in several Sonic games, Sega had to alter the spelling of Knuckles' names to fit next to his life icon. In the Mega Drive games, his name appears as KTE, standing for Knuckles the Echidna. This is because there were only 5 letter slots on the display, which easily fit the likes of Sonic and Tails' names. Then it happened again in Sonic Drift 2, with Knuckles' name being spelled KNUCLES due to space limitations. Up next, number 3 is Shadow. Shadow's got chaos powers, an indomitable will, can harness chaos energy leading to transformations. He's immortal, and obviously he's got super speed. There's an age-old debate as to whether or not Shadow is stronger than Sonic, and which one of them would win in a fight. And it's kinda hard to determine which since they're so evenly matched. Although there is a belief that Sonic is definitely the fastest in Mobius. I don't know, what do you guys think? Shadow or Sonic? Let me know in the comments below. Up next, number 2 is the initial concept. Knuckles originally was conceptualized as being Jamaican. There's even Sonic and Knuckles strategy guides with Knuckles dialogue including Jamaican slang. He was intended to have a Jamaican accent and go by the name of Dreads, which obviously referred to his dreadlocks and the fact that he was from an island race. But his cultural ancestry isn't the only shocking thing about his initial conception. Up next, number 1 is Nike. Likely the most surprising fact about Knuckles is that he was intended to be a cross promotion with Nike. The crescent-shaped symbol on his body was initially supposed to be a Nike logo, to serve as a sponsorship deal between Nike and Sega for the Sonic and Knuckles game. Eventually the deal didn't come to light, and instead of a checkmark on his chest, we got the now iconic moon crescent instead. And at number 10 is Chaos 6. The final form of Chaos, the main antagonist in Sonic Adventure, Chaos 6 is an immortal deity. It's a creature created of water-like chaos energy, and is the final boss for Sonic in the game. So why is it so strong? Well, it's capable of enhanced hydrokinesis, super strength, shapeshifting, has vacuum breath, and can create huge energy shockwaves. It's also massive in size, so there's that. Up next, number 9 is Metal Sonic. First appearing in Sonic the Hedgehog CD for the Sega Mega CD, Metal Sonic is an invention of Dr. Robotnik's, and is a recurring antagonist for Sonic and Friends. While nothing can compare to the original, Metal Sonic is an extremely accurate replica of him, capable of velocities that match Sonic's, and can imitate his moves and attacks. He's obsessed with beating Sonic, but never has, despite being a solid challenge for the Blue Blur. And that obsession is partially what makes him so powerful beyond his technological advancements. Robotic willpower. Up next, number 8 is Silver. Silver gets a spot on this list solely because of his telekinetic powers. He's from the future, where it turns out telekinetic powers are the norm, and his mission is to change the catastrophes of the past in order to save his era. While he may not measure up in terms of traditional strength, his telekinesis gives him a major one-up over a lot of other characters in the Sonic franchise, despite how some fans think he's unnecessary. Basically a copy of Sonic, and they already had Shadow, who was cool, in case you guys were wondering. Up next, number 7, Black Space. Black Space starts off as a story about the author's sister, and how she was an expert at all things Mega Drive, especially Sonic. When Sonic 3 and Knuckles came out, she managed to find an odd glitch outside of debug mode that let her drop Sonic all over the top of the credits and go supersonic. Except instead of yellow, he would just turn red. Eventually she grew up, moved out of their family home, and left the Mega Drive behind. Years later, when the family all got back together and were staying over for the holidays, they busted out the Mega Drive and played some games together. That night, the author couldn't sleep, so he goes downstairs for a glass of water. He decides to play a bit of Sonic 3 and Knuckles until he was tired enough to go back to bed. He tried out the glitch that his sister used in the past, except this time, all of the rest of the game turned red instead of Sonic. He's like, whatever, and continues to play the game, even though it keeps glitching. That's when Sonic begins to fall down his screen. The player decides to screw around a bit in debug mode, resulting in him bouncing the falling Sonic in the game, playing a game of keepy uppy. With the game being, Sonic has his death animation, begins to fall, he turns Sonic into an object, which bounces up, and the cycle continues for a while. As he continues to play, the game continues to glitch until one of the Sonic sprites just continues to fall, unresponsive to his controls. The player watches him fall for a while, but then dozes off, waking up later in the night. What appears on the screen in front of him blows his mind. The screen is entirely black, no longer red, and at its bottom is a bunch of squirming sprites. A split second later, he realizes that it's a bunch of Sonics twitching and squirming around in what can only be described as a Sonic landfill. These were all the Sonics that he was playing keepy uppy with. Up next, number 6 is E123 Omega. Created by Dr. Eggman, Omega is the most powerful and also last of the E-series robots, whose purpose was to prevent Shadow from being released from his status. He ends up working with Shadow and Rouge the Bat, making his debut in Sonic Heroes, and is crazy impressive in terms of what he has to offer in his robotic arsenal. Super strength, flight, enhanced durability and speed, a limitless arsenal, hyper go-on usage, and moves like Fire Launcher, Beam Cannon, Dash Punch, Blazing Tornado with the help of Rouge, and the Chaos Inferno move, which also requires Rouge and Shadow. So yeah, he's super powerful and a strong force to be reckoned with, and also kind of adorable for a robot.
Number 5. He's old. But also, he's not. Shadow's age is a subject of some disagreement among the Sonic community, even though the answer is relatively straightforward. Shadow was created decades before Sonic and put into stasis for 50 years when the project was shut down. So technically he has existed for roughly 50 years. However, if we're talking about developmental age, he's more like Sonic, so roughly 15 years old.
Up next, number 4 is Emerald. Emerald is the most powerful Gizoid, and was classified as a super weapon by Gerald Robotnik. With the ability to harness chaos energy and replicate power, yeah, it's easy to see why. His claim to fame is that he destroyed an entire civilization, and also he's really nice and sweet once he links with Sonic. Emerald was eventually destroyed as a result of a series of events where Eggman was messing with his link to Sonic, turning him evil, and ultimately leading to him going insane and imploding. Poor little guy. Up next, number 3 is Knuckles doesn't have ears. Echidnas do not have ears. Instead, they have large slits at the sides of their heads. This is why Knuckles and the other Echidna characters in the franchise aren't depicted with ears, whereas Sonic and the rest of the crew all have them. Also, worth noting, this is what an Echidna looks like. Bit of a difference between the two. Up next, number 2 is Sonic. He's the fastest. He's the hero, so it's hard to imagine him losing to anyone. While Shadow gives him a run for his money, Sonic has proven to outlast him in some cases, including maintaining his super form longer than Shadow did in Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic is also a bit of a victim to plot armor, always somehow being able to take on anything and anyone that's thrown in his direction, minus our number 1. Speaking of which, in at number 1 is Mephiles. Originating from Solaris, the god of time, light, and fire, Mephiles was the product of the god Split, who eventually took the form of Shadow the Hedgehog. He's never been defeated in battle, but his existence was erased when Sonic and Princess Elise traveled back in time to prevent Solaris' split from occurring. Mephiles is the only character known to have killed Sonic, despite these events being erased from history. First appearing in Sonic 06 as the game's main antagonist, he later rejoins his other half Iblis, forming into Solaris once again, who is the game's final boss. And at number 10, don't play track 1. This story tells of a gamer named Tyler who bought himself a Dreamcast in 2000, along with Sonic Adventure. He loved the game, and almost a year had passed since he had bought it, and he still adored it. Tyler even started to listen to the soundtrack on a frequent basis, so he thought he'd try popping in the disc into his CD player to see if it'd play the music, despite it being a GD-ROM and not a CD-ROM. This is when he heard the Dreamcast disc warning, informing him that if he continued to play the disc in the CD player, it could damage it. He ignored the warning and selected track 1. This is when his eardrums were assaulted. A loud screeching noise blared out from his speakers, and continued to do so as the speakers started to leak mercury. Freaked out, Tyler pulled out the disc and put it back in his Dreamcast as he cleaned it up. After he was done, he decided to play Sonic Adventure to get his mind off of his screw-up, but the game was all wonky now. All the colors were distorted, and the save files were corrupt, so he started a new game instead, frustrated. It was almost unbearable to play. There was so much static, and eventually a warning popped up on his screen, reading, "Your GD-ROM of Sonic Adventure has suffered irreparable damage." Disappointed, Tyler pulled out the disc and smashed it. But for the next several weeks that followed, he would have strange dreams. He was standing knee-deep in mercury, almost drowning in it, before waking up every morning drenched in sweat. So that one wasn't that scary. What about our number 9? Maria's Revenge. This story tells of a player who had recently learned how to hack and emulate video games, and decides to boot up Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. The player discovers a Maria Robotnik menu theme. Now after he implements it, the game shuts down on him. So he restarts it. But this time, Maria didn't appear as she did previously. She was now holding the pose from the Shadow's Past cutscene, and the graphics had downgraded, looking as if they were created in MS Paint. On top of that, the game lagged, the graphics contorted, but he just decided to continue to play. Now in the Kale Garden stage, he started to notice that Maria was appearing subtly everywhere. Her head appeared on a rock, her hair on a kale. It freaked him out, so he shut off the game and shut off the Maria theme. Then when he turned it back on and continued to play, she continued to show up, even more, with her head enlarged or her naked body visible. As he continued playing, messages started to appear in the game. Words the likes of, "kill." The game continued to glitch and he started to see the likes of this. The player ended up having to murder Gerald Robotnik in order to give Maria peace. The game then ends with the words, thank you, before shutting off on him forever. Moving on to number 8, Robotnik's torture. A young woman is playing Sonic's CD after going through a stint of Sonic nostalgia when she introduced her younger sibling to the series. Now she's facing off against Metal Sonic when her game starts to act up. When Metal Sonic is defeated, rather than falling off screen, he gets stuck by the wall and is destroyed by Robotnik's laser beam. Thinking this is just a moment in the game that she remembered incorrectly, the player saves the game and exits. The next day, her mother is oddly ill, and she finds her cats hissing at her Sonic Mega Collections Plus game. She ignores it and decides to play some Sonic 1 this time. And when she faces off against Robotnik in her first boss battle, he smiles menacingly when he's defeated, and the whole zone turns into a weird rusted version of itself. So she sends a message to her boyfriend about the games, and he says that he'll come take a look at them and see if the collection is a hacked copy. But that night she has a dream about Robotnik, where he threatens her. Waking up, she finds herself unable to fall back asleep, so she decides to keep playing Sonic 1. This is when Robotnik starts addressing her through her television screen, and in order to make him go away, she fights him, controlling Sonic. She defeats him, goes to bed relieved, believing that this weird Robotnik has finally been rid from her game. But the next morning, she wakes up to an email in her inbox, written in Japanese from an unknown sender. When she goes to translate it, it reads, "You will fear me." Up next, number 7 is Blaze. Blaze is capable of pyrokinesis. She's capable of flight, can harness chaos energy, and the Soul Emerald's energies. And she can turn herself into a burning projectile, and set things on fire from afar. And she's even learned how to master the flames to the extent that she can emit small embers from her palms to defrost living creatures. That's all very impressive. While she has taken on Sonic in a fight before, it was never properly concluded, and now the two work as allies. He's someone that she greatly respects. But kudos to Blaze for holding her own. In our number 6 spot, Possessed Amy. Now if you've ever heard about the deleted zones in Sonic 2 that some players have found over the years, like Genocide City or Hidden Palace, this creepypasta will interest you. Genocide City is notorious for being unsettling. When you load it, a blank screen appears and Sonic will fall immediately to his death. Anywho, in this tale, a player receives an unmarked CD in the mail from an old friend of his that he hasn't heard from in a while. So he pops the disc into his computer and there's 2 files on it. One is labeled Undead EXE. So he opens it and sees Amy in the original 1991 Sonic game. Thinking it was a ROM, he gets excited and starts to play. The game enters a character select, and it looks like the one from Sonic 3, with Tails, Sonic, and Sally Acorn appearing. Shrugging it off, he decides to play as Tails. The rest of the story plays out the way that the Sonic EXE creepypasta does. The game loads, it's a flat zone, and dead animals begin to appear. Creepy laughter is heard, and then Amy appears, flashing periodically on the player's screen. Amy's sprite eventually appears in front of his Tails sprite and lunges at it. The screen goes black and a loud screeching noise comes out of the player's computer. That's when he hears a female-like distorted voice that says, "Aw, that's too bad. Let's try again." Up next, number 5 is different colors. In Sonic the Hedgehog 3, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, in all of the game's cutscenes, Knuckles is a different color. Ever so slightly, that is. He appears to be more of a pinkish tone than the color he is in the game when he's playable. This is because of palettes conflicting with the HUD item, something that was adjusted with future games, and as technology progressed. This isn't the only color issues that the character has been faced with though. In Sonic the Hedgehog 3, his socks were colored yellow in the cutscenes. And at number 4, the Mega Glitch. This story is about a gamer who finds his old Sega Genesis buried in his closet, along with a copy of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. He decides to give it a play even though the console was in rough condition. When he starts up the game, he noticed that his save files were gone. Shrugging it off, he just starts a new one. And after a few hours of play, he beats the game. So he decides to search through YouTube and test out some glitches for fun. He stumbles upon something called the Mega Glitch, which allowed a player to loop back, which took you to a spot in the game that normally crashed, but lets you avoid that crash, therefore witnessing some really crazy glitches. So he gives it a go, and after a few attempts he manages to succeed. But after a few minutes of crazy glitching, his system shuts down. Assuming that the Genesis was busted, he decides to play Sonic Generations on his PS3 instead. But the game is acting weird. It's lagging. The music doesn't play, and Sonic has a strange expression on his face. When Sonic is killed by an enemy, he has a different death sequence. White noise blasts through the speakers, and the enemies keep attacking him instead of the game respawning. After a few minutes, he eventually respawns though, so the player continues to play. Over the course of the next hour, Sonic keeps getting killed in brutal ways that the player doesn't remember the game ever featuring. After dying again and again, the player hears Sonic saying something over and over in a high pitch. He listens closely, and it's the word Mega Glitch, with Sonic repeating it over and over. But before the player could investigate further, his screen goes black, and music from the Lava Reef stage begins to play. The player tries to make the system function again, but he can't. Yet the music keeps playing, and that's when he realizes it. The music wasn't coming from the system, it was coming from his head, and it wouldn't stop. Ooh, so scary.
Number 3, popularity. Many people kinda crap on Shadow, calling him emo or trying to be edgy or whatever. That's fine, I personally like him, but I get that he's super sulky at times. I mean, you would be too if your best friend was murdered and you were constantly being used as a weapon. But it turns out he isn't quite as unpopular as some would have you believe. In the 2011 Guinness World Records Gamers Edition, there was a list of the top 50 video game characters of all time, and good old Shadow got 25th. Sonic was in at number 10, whoop-de-doo, but Shadow beat out Bowser and DK, which is a pretty impressive feat.
Up next, number 2, Tails Abuse. One night a player was up late playing Sonic 2 on an emulator. Bored of traversing through the stages, he thought he'd have a little fun by messing around with Tails, and some enemies, taunting his foes. He was enjoying himself until Tails' animation changed to the animation he makes when he's drowning, which was really weird. Tails drops out of the frame and didn't return, so the player reset his game. When the game booted back up, Tails was missing from the opening logo. When the game began, there was only the option to play as Sonic. Tails was also missing from the character select too, so the player shuts off the game again and resets it. This time around, the logo glitched, but after the game started up, everything seemed normal. Then he reaches the first boss with Tails, and the character's drowning animation appears again. The screen turns white. A text box appears that reads, "You killed him." The player tries to turn off the game and the system, but it doesn't work. That's when something else happens. The player ends up in the chemical plant zone. Blood is everywhere, and Sonic appears, but wasn't in his control. Another text box then appears that simply reads, "Yes or no." So obviously the player chooses no, but wasn't allowed to select it. Regretfully, he then selects yes, and 5 seconds later, after the screen faded to black, Tails' corpse appeared. And that's it. And last but not least, in at number 1, Antisonic.dll. This story is said to be derived from an audio file found on a website that was available for the public for 3 days before it was taken down. The MP3 contained 26 minutes of a voice speaking, someone named Chris Lawrence, discussing an experience that ties into Sonic EXE. Now if you're unfamiliar, the Sonic EXE myth is about a PC port of Sonic the Hedgehog that contains a demonic version of the main character, and is said to have haunted and chased down those who have played it. Chris tells of how he heard about Sonic EXE from a top 10 YouTube video, so he decided to hunt down a copy of it. He did, played it, and was fascinated by it. It wasn't the original game though, but rather one crafted after the myth. Shortly afterwards, someone by the name of Gamma added him as a friend on Steam. Before he could send them a message though, Gamma beat him to it, referring to Chris by his name. Chris began to hear laughter through his headphones, his monitor began to act up, and scratch marks appeared. They grew bigger and bigger, and became gashes that looked like flesh was beneath the cuts. Then a moment later, all of the noise and damage was gone. In the audio file, he goes on to describe stranger and stranger events happening to his computer, until the audio file itself cuts out briefly, turning into static, and then cutting to what sounds like wind blowing. A voice then returns, but it's not Chris, it's this.
Having fun? I hope so. I hope you enjoyed watching.
The audio clip cuts to a mixture of audio clips and screams before returning to Chris's voice, warning people about playing Sonic EXE, all of which sounds like he's gone completely mental, and that he's hallucinating. You can then hear Chris struggling with something in the background. Gunfire is heard, and then it becomes static once more.